Welcome, everybody, to the Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast. I'm your host, LJ Smith, and alongside me for the first ever episode, Andrew Matulevicius of Parkland High School, senior goalie on the lacrosse team. Andrew, thank you for taking time and being the first guest on the podcast.
Thanks for having me out here.
I'm very excited to talk about your experiences as a high school student athlete. You are committed to play college lacrosse, so we'll get to that on the latter end of the episode. But now let's talk about yourself. As I said, you're a senior at Parkland, but let's go into, when did you first start playing lacrosse?
The first time I started playing lacrosse was when I was around 5 years old.
Okay.
And it was in my backyard with my neighbor he was older than me. He was in middle school probably at that point, but he would just sit there, take me and my brothers out in the backyard and just he taught us how to play, taught us how to throw, all that, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, you mentioned your brothers, so you do have two older brothers?
Yes, I have two older brothers that
So
are a year older than me.
So just a year older than you. Okay, so what was that like, kind of watching them grow and develop? Did you kind of just take right after them?
Yeah, they always pushed me to be better and always forced me to try harder and make me keep up with them, so it was a lot of fun.
Okay. So did they influence you to play? Your neighbor, was that the first exposure? What kept you kind of growing in the sport?
Yeah, my neighbor was definitely the one that got us all in, both me and my brothers into it. And the thing that just kept me going so much was once I found out that I wanted to be a goalie and it was what I wanted to do, it was just taking more shots. I just really enjoyed saving the ball. It was no feeling was really like that. So it just forced me to keep going and keep getting better at it.
So you mentioned the goalie aspect. So with your brothers, the neighbor, you were that go-to goalie person. So now you're the one just taking shots the entire time. So now was that a natural thing that kind of happened? Because you're just shooting on an open net. What made you kind of want to be the goalie, step in front of everybody?
Well, it's because I didn't really want to run when I was younger.
Okay.
So that's just the way it was. But then, I just sit there taking shots. I was pretty good at it, but I'd sit there and get hit a few times. I'd start crying, and then my neighbor would sit there and make fun of me, call me a baby. And then, he'd give me a popsicle, cheer me up. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay. So those are those core memories you kind of have of bringing the love of the sport to yourself.
It was, yeah.
Were there any other sports that you played growing up, or was this kind of the only one that took?
I was just the normal stuff soccer, basketball. But I was never good at any of those and didn't really enjoy them. So
that running aspect.
Yeah, no. Running was not my thing back then.
Okay. So being a goalie, there's a different set of a different skill set that you kind of have to adapt to. What do you bring to the table? What kind of separated you going up through the ranks?
Honestly, just having short memory, not letting goals get to me, and just wanting to work hard and I don't know, not fearing the ball at all.
So that's something I have a hard time wrapping my head around. It's you're willing to stand in front of someone whipping a lacrosse ball at you, which obviously hurts to begin with, yeah. But you're willing to take that in front of the goal. Is there a separate mindset you just have to flip a switch when you're in goal, different from any other part of your normal day?
Honestly, not really, because I don't know. After a while, it just stops hurting a little bit. You just get used to it,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Some different strengths or weaknesses that you kind of saw yourself have throughout your high school career. So what's a strength that you see yourself bringing to the team?
My leadership, just being out there, commanding the defense, telling them what to do, helping them out that way, and I don't know. That was just something that I've always been good at doing. So yeah.
Is there anything that you feel you could be working more on throughout your high school career?
Yeah, something that I need to work on more definitely is more leadership off the field, not just in the defensive standpoint, but just keeping people accountable and keeping mood up and stuff like that.
You're a goalie. Did you play any other positions throughout your time, or was that kind of your go-to thing?
Well, first, I wanted to start playing early on, but my coaches wouldn't let me do it because they said I was too small.
Okay.
So I would play I played offense, some defense, just a lot. But I didn't like running at all, so it was yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
That's where you kind of resorted back to. It's not you're not a mobile position. It's just you're not running nearly as much. So using that mobility to your strengths then.
Yeah. Now I'm much better at running, but back then it was just no.
So having opportunities to be a goalie at Parkland High School, what other opportunities have you had? Do you play club? Are you in any type of club or leagues?
Yeah. First I started out on Headstrong Lehigh Valley, and I played on it till sophomore year, I think.
Okay.
And then I switched over to Team 11, which that's where I went next after that, and stayed there until last year.
Okay, so are they relatively local, or do you have to travel for those?
Headstrong was right around here in the Allentown area. Team 11 was down in Bucks County, so yeah, it was a little bit of a hike down there.
those club opportunities, did that get you exposure, helping you get recruited?
Yeah, it definitely did. Like at the tournaments there'd be a ton of coaches and like, just everyone sitting there watching you play, which definitely helped out a lot.
So tournament play. So was that an every weekend thing? Was it every other weekend? Was it in the off season compared to high school?
There was always like a fall tournament, like fall season where we had like 2 or 3 tournaments. And then like over the summer, be like every weekend, we'll have like 4 or 5 throughout the summer. So yeah, it was a lot.
So just constantly playing lacrosse, keeping you sharp and able to get that exposure from college coaches. Let's talk about your high school career, obviously coming up into your senior season this spring, but accolades and accomplishments that you have acquired throughout your 3 seasons so far.
I've been all EPC second team twice the past 2 years, all morning call honorable mention twice the past 2 years. I hit 500 saves last year, and as a team we've made it to the district championship the past 2 years, unfortunately coming up short in those. But yeah, still pretty cool experience.
And so with all of those accolades, obviously yourself having to take pride in those things, does that start with practice, coming from practice, or is that just completely internal?
No, it starts coming in from practice, just showing up every day, giving it all I got, and just like working to get better as a team and like personally myself.
A credit to you, because sometimes the weather when you start spring sports in the Northeast, it's not always the best opportunity. It's cold, there's snow on the turf, and now you're in a position not only where you don't necessarily get hit from other people are hurling a ball at you at 70 miles an hour, so you have to step in front of that in freezing cold weather.
It's 10 times worse with the cold weather.
I believe it for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned the EPC championships and districts being big games that you've been a part of. What are some big games that you played in that you felt you excelled in?
I really enjoy playing like out of conference games, because like going down to play like District 1, that's like the best teams around, and like it's just like enjoyable to like see how like we compare against them, and like it's always good competition down there.
And you mentioned like playing, I believe districts is played at Lehigh.
Yeah, it is.
So what is that experience like as a high school student athlete playing at a big stage like at Lehigh?
It's honestly like surreal, because like, just like thinking about it, like D1 teams play there, and like, the best of the best play there.
And just taking full advantage of like not letting that kind of overwhelm you in the moment, because you're like, man, we're playing for this district championship, that we're here again. We're trying to get the win, but at the same point, you take a step back and you're able to kind of look around and be like, wow, Division I talent. Mm-hmm. This is where we're at, and we have the opportunity to play. That's really cool. What are some games for this upcoming season that you're kind of looking forward to? What's kind of checked on your list here?
Right now, Easton, we lost to them in the district championship last year, so hopefully looking to get back at them. Central's always a good game. They got a ton of talent. They're a really good team. Nazareth looks pretty good this year too, so I'm looking forward to that game too.
Awesome. So kind of going off the cuff here, what's your favorite part of playing lacrosse? What's the one thing that kind of keeps you going every day?
Just being on a team, like being around the kids that I enjoy playing with. Like my best friends I'm ever going to make are the kids that I've been playing with for the past like 10 years. So it's just something that I enjoy doing. It makes me like want to show up every day.
Outside of your sport, are you part of any clubs, organizations? What are some other things outside of the sport that you kind of do?
Now I like enjoy playing the piano, working on cars, and like, stuff like that.
Okay, so piano, a little bit of musical talent?
A little bit, yeah.
All right, that's awesome. So working on cars, is that something you kind of found just naturally, or how did that come about?
Well, my great-grandfather's car was buried in my grandmother's yard. Me and my dad dug that up like 2 years ago, and we've been working on it ever since. We're getting close to running, so it's pretty cool.
Wow, okay, that's impressive. That's definitely something not in my wheelhouse at all. So the fact that you've been able to pick that talent and kind of work at that's excellent. So now, what's something that you enjoy doing or outside of your sport? When you're not thinking about lacrosse, when you're not thinking about school, what's something you enjoy doing outside of your sport?
I enjoy going out golfing with my friends, spending time with them. And I also enjoy, playing video games, cooking, stuff like that.
Cooking as well? So just the man of many talents over here. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. So you are committed to Ursinus College. What was the process like? What schools were you kind of interested in? What schools were you looking at heading into the recruiting process?
So first start out, once September 1st hit, which is the first day that college coaches could reach out to you, I was reaching out to a bunch of D1 schools. Didn't really hear back from many of them. I only heard back from one. So then I started to look towards D3 schools. I got some texts from a few college coaches, and I just talked to them and went out on visits and stuff. It was a pretty cool experience.
Along this process, a lot of it is looking at schools and their lacrosse programs, but what else did you look at school-wise? Was there a specific major you were looking for? Was there anything academic-wise that kind of drew you to specific colleges?
At the time I was looking, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was just kind of like going and like wanting to get a feel of the place and like seeing if it was like, is this the place I want to be? Or like, because like if I don't end up playing lacrosse, like I wanted to be at a place that I could still like go to the school and not just like be there only for lacrosse.
And that's a very important thing. I feel like you're very wise to have that concept, and it's something. If you take the sport away, are you still able to complete a program? Are you going to feel comfortable on that campus? Yeah. That's something that's kind of tenfold. If you enjoy the all-encompassing concept, but finding a school that A, the lacrosse program meets your expectations, but B, the program you're looking for, the environment you're looking for, that all matters in this process, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It does. It matters a lot.
Your recruiting experience as a whole, you mentioned September 1st, reaching and contacting coaches. If you could kind of summarize, what was your recruiting experience like?
Well, you know, it's always rough at first when like you don't like get the looks that you expect to get or like stuff like that. But you just got to stay like, keep going with it. Don't get discouraged, and like, you'll find your place eventually. So
what schools were you initially interested in? You can, if you want to share them. If not, that's fine. But like you mentioned D1 schools and then ultimately Division III schools. Did those schools you reached out to initially talk to you? Or did they kind of just ghost you? What was that experience like? Because that's something you took initiative.
Yeah. I mean, the issue with D1 schools is you got thousands of kids reaching out like a day to the college coaches. So they're not going to see like half the emails that they get. But you know, I just kept staying with it. I got a few emails back from some of them. Went to a few prospect days, but you know, the nice thing about D3 is normally it's a smaller school, so you're gonna get more looks, like more like contact with coaches and stuff like that. So it was a lot better doing it that way.
You mentioned hearing back from coaches. Did you hear back from head coaches? Did you hear back from assistant coaches? Were there specific recruiting aspects of that it was an assistant or a head coach?
Well, from the D1 school I got back from the assistant coach. So like, I mean, really normally they just have like one coach dealing with it. Mm-hmm. So
how did the coaches interact with you? Because that's one thing. You mentioned email. Did they reach out to you via social media? Did they see you at camps or prospect camps? Like, what was that like for you?
I got a few emails from coaches, got text messages from others, but like ultimately they just like want to get you on a call and like talk to you about like their school, like what they have to offer, and like ask you how you're doing and stuff like that.
So did you feel like it was more personal having those phone calls versus text messages?
Yeah, the phone calls definitely were, because like you got to like meet the people a little bit and like see what like they were like and stuff like that. So it was a cool experience.
Going off of that, where did you see the most traction from a recruiting side? Did you meet coaches at these events? Did they talk to you after these tournaments, or was it strictly like email, phone call, text messages?
Yeah, and mostly it was just like they'll send me an email and say like, we saw you like so and like stuff like that, and then like ask you for like your number or something like that and get on a call.
From your experience, you're going to these tournaments and prospect camps. How tough is it not to look to the sideline to see if anyone's there? Have you gotten an email or a text or like, hey, we're going to see you this weekend? Is that hard? Do you feel like that affected your focus?
Definitely when like you're walking out in the field and like you see like all the coaches lined up along the sideline, and or like if you get like a text saying like, hey, we're going to be at your game or your tournament this weekend, and like you see them there, you know, it's exciting. But like you just got to like lock in, you know, and just focus on the game and play to your best ability.
That's incredible to be able to have that ability to lock in, because I feel sometimes that pressure can feel overwhelming, and that might not be the case for everybody. When you're at these tournaments, when you're playing games for Parkland, when you're playing club, what's the hardest thing for you to do on game day?
And I'd probably say it's like, I don't know, I feel like dialing in like on the way there. Normally it's tough for me because like I just want to mess around, you know, have some fun. But you know, once it gets to game time, I have a tendency to just like dial in like once it's game time. But like during warm-ups and stuff, I'll sit there and mess around a little bit.
You still have to have fun. You're a high school.
Exactly.
You're a high school student. You're there with your friends. You want to have a good time, but being able to flip that switch, kind of realize when the time comes of what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're with your high school coaches and your team or even club. Who kind of gave you that idea, like, I can play at the college level?
I'd say like, you know, just being on varsity all 4 years and like being around kids and like being able to like keep up with them really just got me going and being like, all right, if like these kids are going to colleges, you know, I could do it too. So yeah.
So having that kind of constant battle at practice, your varsity all 4 years, having that kind of like, hey, maybe I could do this past high school.
Yeah.
Excellent. Kind of a rapid fire question. What's your go-to food spot in the Lehigh Valley?
I'd probably say PJ's. PJ's is always
PJ's? Okay.
Always a good answer, yeah.
Awesome. What's like where's a spot you go during the school day that you kind of want to get away from things? A lot of the answers I've heard is like the trainer. Is that somewhere you go? You go to the weight room?
No, I don't go to the trainer. I don't know. I just don't enjoy being there. I don't know. Last market period I had gym class a lot, so I was always down there. That's always a nice place to be, down in the gym. So that's probably my answer, down in the gym.
Is there a playlist, your go-to playlist that kind of gets you pumped up on the way to a game? Is there a specific song?
Brain Stew by Green Day. That's a good song. It gets you going, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. When you are thinking about this upcoming season, what gets you the most excited?
Just getting a chance to compete for a district championship again, and also just, going out there, having fun, enjoying my last year of high school lacrosse with all my friends and stuff like that.
Cool. The last part, kind of tying up the recruiting process here, is there something you didn't like about the recruiting process that you kind of just want to share with viewers and other potential prospects going into college?
The worst part about it is just, how you can get discouraged so easily, because, if you don't get, responses that you want back, or, you don't get, an email back or anything like that, it's just, just makes you feel bad about yourself. But you just got to, learn that there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, and you just got to keep going through it, and you'll find your place eventually.
Is a support system kind of important in that as well? Definitely. In your experience, you have two older brothers that are playing at the collegiate level. So what did you kind of take from what they did? Is your experience different from theirs as well? Yeah,
my experience is definitely different from them. So my brother both of them weren't really playing college lacrosse. My one is at Temple now. He's playing club lacrosse there. Mm-hmm. So that was just kind of he just walked on the team, tried out. The other one, he wasn't playing at all. But fortunately, he had one of his past coaches, who now he coaches at one of the colleges up in Wilkes-Barre, reach out to him and get him on the team. So that's pretty easy for him. So, yeah.
So, but your story, the way you kind of developed is different.
No, it's not. I was, I put a lot more initiative into it. I was reaching out to coaches. And, I was just lucky enough to have Ursinus find me.
You mentioned Ursinus. You're heading there in the fall. What was your experience like talking with coach? Because that's something, when you finally have that conversation with coach, is it strictly business? Is it fun? What kind of work, what drew you to Ursinus?
Well, I had Coach Paus, who's the assistant coach there, reach out to me, and he's honestly one of the best guys I've ever met in my life.
Okay.
And, he was just fun, just enjoyable. He brought a lot of energy to everything, which I really enjoyed a lot about him, which made me feel good about going there. So, yeah.
So making that personal connection does matter.
Yes, it does a lot.
For sure.
Yes.
And so when you're talking with the coach, are you talking about lacrosse, or is it just hey, my pet, hey, you did this, hey, I'm working on cars today? Is it just normal banter?
It's just normal banter, he would come to tournaments, my dogs would be there. Every single time he sees me now, he's like, hey, how the dog's doing? How's the family? Stuff like that. So, yeah.
So making that personal connection as a coach to the recruit, to yourself, that's a selling point for sure.
100%.
If looking back now that you're committed, you're heading into your senior season, is there anything you would have done differently in the recruiting process?
Honestly, no, because I'm more than happy to where I ended up, and I'm just thankful for everything that's happened throughout it.
Excellent. And Ursinus being just a nice campus, you felt comfortable. We talked about going to a school that you can feel like you're fitting into not only the program but the campus. So what kind of sold you when going to Ursinus on the campus?
Honestly, it was just I was walking around the campus with the coaches touring me around. And it just honestly made me feel so comfortable there, and didn't make me feel any worry or anything about it at all. So it was really nice.
Finding your home away from home.
Exactly, yeah.
That's all you can ask for if you're heading to college, and your brother's going to Wilkes-Barre and Temple as well. Mm-hmm. Having their own experience, you get to embark on your own journey in your own location. As we get ready to wrap up the first episode of the Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'd just like to emphasize, staying keep doing what you're doing, and don't worry about if things aren't going to go your way in the recruiting process. It's all going to work its way out eventually. So, yeah.
Excellent. Once again, Andrew Matulevicius, a senior goalie from Parkland High School, the first guest on the Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast, presented by Smith Sports Media. Andrew, thank you for spending some time with me, shedding light on kind of what your experience was like. It's a pleasure to get to learn more about you, and hopefully heading into a great spring season.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks a lot for having me out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast presented by Smith Sports Media. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel searching Lehigh Valley Prospects Podcast. You can stream the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts searching Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast. Follow us on social media on Instagram at LV Prospects MLAX Podcast, on X at LV Prospects MLAX, and on Facebook at Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast. Until next time, I'm your host, LJ Smith, signing off.